Yo, what's up, guys? Monday, June 9th. Kind of a flat day. Couple of things here, man. Some of you guys are funny. I gotta say, reading some of these comments here. I'm going to talk about the topic I want to discuss today is this thing going on now. There's another feud going on. We had last week the Trump-Musk feud. Now it's the Bessent Gavin Newsom feud. By the way, did you hear about that brawl that happened at the White House between Bessent and Elon Musk? That came out over the weekend. That Musk, he kind of he gave him a attempted rugby tackle to Bessent. Bessent, who's by the way 6'4", and Bessent hauled off and punched him. That's where Musk got that black eye. So that was a funny story, man. I guess he's no pushover, Bessent. He's gay, but he fights back. All right, I'm gonna get into that, but first I have to say something. Some of you guys are really funny. I gotta be honest. When I see the comments, let me say something again that I've said so many times in the past. MMT is not a policy. Okay, I've said this so many times in the past. MMT is a body of principles that describes monetary systems. And it could be any monetary system. It could be like what we have, which is, like a fiat currency system. It could be a gold standard system. It could be a fixed exchange rate system. It could be a barter system. It's a set of principles or understandings, concepts that describe how a monetary system functions. Like a lot of you still think it's policy. And one guy posted up a comment. I'm sorry, I don't mean to embarrass anybody, but me, if I don't know anything, I keep my mouth shut. I try to learn something, all right? It's a lot of times I see some of the people here, they'll just come out with these crazy things and it's completely wrong and they look silly, they look foolish. So one guy writes here I've never been an MMTer because MMTers don't understand that the purpose of money is to save it first and then spend it in your hypothetical future. So you don't eat, you don't need to eat, you eat in your hypothetical future. You reside in some shelter in your hypothetical future. I mean, you clothe yourself in some stuff like that. Guys, it's just silly. And that's not what MMT is. All right? MMT, like what I just told you, is a body of principles that describes how a monetary system works. And it doesn't matter. It could be our system. It could be a gold standard. It could be a fixed exchange rate. It could be a barter system. It describes also how trade, all that stuff. So you got to stop thinking like it's a policy. It's not a policy. It's I've used the analogy in the past, it's like physics. Physics is a body of principles and understandings about the universe and the natural world. Okay, the forces in the universe and the natural world. And when you say I don't buy into this MMT stuff, that would be like saying, I don't buy into this physics stuff. This gravity idea, I don't know, it's a little shaky to me. Aerodynamics, I don't know about that because I see planes crashing every now and then. It's just silly, man. When you say stuff like that, it's better to just zip it because you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. And it just looks ridiculous. It looks ridiculous. So let me get into this thing that I was that I wanted to cover with the Bessent Newsom. So we all see what's going on in Los Angeles. It's crazy, man. There's riots, people going nuts. Society is fraying at the edges. Not even at the edges anymore. And so, in some cases like this, it's spiraling out of control. So Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, and by the way, California is a beautiful, amazing state. I lived there for a year last year. Many of you know I was doing my videos from there and stuff like that. I moved to Florida. It'll be a year now, but I think California, at least from the perspective of its diversity and its nature, I'm talking about its nature, its geography, the Pacific Ocean. There's no place like it on Earth. I mean, you have everything there. You have the Pacific Ocean, you have desert, you have mountains, you have forests, it's an incredible, incredible place. It really is. Has the state been mismanaged? Yeah, probably. And what's going on right now in Los Angeles is awful. So Gavin Newsom, he's pissed off because Trump's federalized the National Guard, sent in the National Guard to try to quell, squash these riots that are going on. He also sent in just today some Marines. So Gavin Newsom, Gavin Newsom said, okay, that's it. We're not going to pay our taxes. The state is not going to pay its taxes to the federal government. And Bessent was like, you can't do that. That's a criminal act. So I understand, if you purposely evade paying taxes, on purpose, that is criminal, okay? That is a criminal, that's criminal tax evasion. The Congress just made it that way. It's criminal. If you intentionally don't pay your taxes, you can go to jail. All right. So, but that's not the point I'm trying to make. What's interesting and funny to me, actually, what's humorous to me is even if California didn't pay its taxes to the federal government, which I think is something like 80 billion annually, the federal government could go right on spending exactly as it has been without even a hiccup. And that's because, and I'm going to say this again, and maybe that guy who posted the comment, he's going to come back with another silly thing. I don't know. But nobody can pay their taxes, and that would include the state of California, until the government spends those dollars into the economy first. The dollars to pay tax, I'm going to say this very slowly so you guys get it. The money to pay taxes, US dollars, because right now, that's the only thing that is accepted. Who knows? Maybe down the road it'll be Bitcoin. That'll be a big problem if it is. Oops, not an earthquake. I kicked the tripod. The government has to put the dollars in the economy before anyone can pay their taxes. That is the sequence. It can happen no other way. Okay? So even if California didn't fork over the 80 billion, and in a way, I wish it wouldn't, because it would be really cool. I think it would be really cool for them not to pay, and then everybody sees that it wouldn't make one iota of a difference in the amount of government spending that, happens. Maybe it would shed some light on this false belief that taxes fund federal government spending. Now, I'm not saying you can't have any taxes, because taxes or fees or tariffs, those are things that impart value to the currency, because we need the currency to satisfy whatever those liabilities are, the payment of tariffs, the payment of fees, etc. Income taxes are stupid. They're stupid. And Trump understands that. And one of the things he said was that hopefully these tariffs will raise enough money to eliminate income taxes, which would be fantastic, because income taxes, that's a tax on productive work. It's stupid. I mean, you want the citizenry to be incentivized to be productive because that's what creates a vibrant, dynamic, prosperous, abundant economy. I mean, to tax people on their productive work is just, everybody agrees with this. It's completely stupid and it's unnecessary. If you need to levy taxes to impart value to the currency, there's other ways to do it. Exactly, tariffs, as he's trying to do right now. All right? So that would be a great thing. But I just think it's funny that these two guys are going at it, and maybe I'm being a little bit unfair. Maybe Bessent, maybe he really knows this, that we don't really need those taxes for the government to operate the way it is and to spend at the level that it's spending. Maybe he knows that. Me personally, I doubt it. And if I ever had the opportunity, which I'm sure I never will, but if I had the opportunity to ask him that question, I'm sure he would say, no, we need that money. But maybe he knows it, and maybe he's just using it as a tactic, as a strategy to pressure Newsom, to shine a light on Newsom, to make him look foolish and ridiculous, as if he needed any more of that right now. But I mean, here it is again, like every day I see these examples. There's been a lot of examples recently that I've been talking about here on this channel with the debt and the deficit. Nothing would make me happier. And actually, it's been unfolding this way for a long time. The debt keeps going up and up and up, and everything is fine, and the economy is growing, and unemployment is low, and productivity is high, and the standard of living is high. And I've been around for a long time. I tell you guys this all the time. When I started in the business, actually before Reagan, but let's call it Reagan, the debt was 800 billion. Now it's 37 trillion. So it's almost like 50 times, okay? 50 times, that 5,000% bigger. And the economy has grown massively, and more people have come into the country. The country is still the top economy in the world. So what I'm saying has been shown to be true, but we have seen a crescendo recently of these debt doomsday people like Ray Dalio, another guy who looks completely foolish and silly, but the media takes him as, oh, it's Ray Dalio. He's a billionaire, so he must know what he's talking about, and he managed a big hedge fund and blah, blah, blah. Ray Dalio. And they run with that story. And this story I see now, everybody's picking up on this story as if it hasn't been a story for decades. Oh, the debt. It's going to blow everything up. What are we going to do? The debt. We're going to have to grow our way out of it, or we're going to have to cut spending, or the debt. Again, the debt, all that is the total dollar balances in the world held by everybody, basically, the non-government of the United States, globally. Total dollar balances. That's your real money supply in dollars, all right, globally, 37 trillion. So anyway, this Bessent Newsom story, I just find it to be funny. Like, oh, you're not going to pay your taxes, California? That's everybody, it would be cool. I think it would be cool if we had just a citizens tax protest. I'm telling you, if nobody paid their taxes, it would not affect in any way the government's ability to spend and make payments the way it's doing right now. All right. And the funny thing is, like, I always use the Monopoly game example, which I think everybody, most people in their lives at one time or another, they've played that game. And nobody has really, that game teaches a lot of lessons, man. Teaches a lot of lessons. But as an economist, and especially as an MMT economist, and okay, MMT, to repeat, it's not policy, all right? It's a set of principles that allow you to understand how monetary systems work, okay? It's not a policy. Just to repeat myself again, for an economist like myself, that game, it's kind of a shame that nobody learned anything from that game, because and I'm talking about fellow economists, because you cannot play the game until the game distributes the money to the players. I think, I don't have the directions in front of me. You could look it up. You could Google it. I think the very first thing is you got to distribute the money to the players. Maybe the first thing is like you choose your little token that you want to play with. I don't know. But it's right up there at the top. The game has to distribute the money. Because if you land on chance or community chest and it says pay tax, what are you doing? You're just giving back some of the money that the game distributed. All right? So in our real life example, we labor, we work to earn dollars. Now, some of us earn maybe directly from the government. That could be, you could be a vendor to the government. You could be in the military, get paid. You could be receiving a Social Security check or something like that. Or you could be a doctor and you're getting payments from Medicare or Medicaid, something like that. And then we, secondarily, we're out there doing our thing, or our, whatever we do. We labor, services, building things, making things, and then, we get dollars from other people who have earned dollars, and the dollars circulate into the economy. But they can only come from one place. And it's not from banks. I know some of you, every time I say this, you say, Mike, you're wrong, because the banks create credit. If you go to the bank and you get a loan, let's say you get a $10,000 loan at the bank, and you immediately go into the bank and say, okay, now I want $10,000 in cash because you guys just gave me a loan. There's $10,000 in my account. If you want to withdraw that in cash, the government puts those reserves can only come from the government. And I would include the Fed in there, but the Fed is part of the government, all right? If the bank doesn't have the $10,000 in cash, it can borrow it in the system, in the banking system. But even if it can't do that and it has an overdraft in its account at the Fed puts the reserves in there. So bank can create credit. It doesn't create that money. It doesn't create the dollars. It creates the credit. Only the government. That's the only place it could come from. And by the way, with the Fed example that I gave you, that's a loan to the bank. Okay, so it's not like the Fed is putting those reserves in there. It's lending it. Bank has to put up some collateral, and it has to cover that loan. I think they have like a 2-week window that it has to cover that loan. So in the end, ultimately, dollars can only come from federal government spending. And if you don't want to accept that, that's up to you. I mean, there's people who still think like the earth is flat and stuff like that. And people thinking we didn't land on the moon. And there's all kinds of beliefs out there. It's a free country. You can believe whatever you want to believe. All right. But I'm telling you, that's the reality of how things are. You can't play the game and you can't pay your taxes until the government spends the dollars in. So it doesn't matter if California doesn't pay the $80 billion. I mean, it might matter from a legalistic point of view because it is a law that if you intentionally don't pay your taxes, that's a criminal offense. All right? If we do that, if we say to the IRS, like, screw you, I'm not paying. Too bad. Intentionally. Evasion. And if you do like evasion, I don't even think you'd be in trouble if you said, too bad, I'm not paying, because they would seize your house, they would seize your bank accounts, they would seize your property. I think if you evaded, criminal tax evasion, that means you set up some structure, to defraud the IRS, to evade paying tax, then that's how you go to jail. That's how you go to jail. All right? With a phony this or a phony that, to hide assets, to hide income, and not report. That's how you go to jail. If you just say, I'm not filing and I'm not paying, they'll just put a lien and they'll just take everything you got. I don't think you go to jail for that. I think you go to jail when you intentionally kind of defraud the IRS. So anyway, that's it. Every day there's more laughs out there. It could be laughs from Newsom and Bessent or Trump and Musk, or some of you guys posting up comments. I guess that's what makes life fun. Anyway, that's it for today. Please like and subscribe if you've done that. Almost at 9,700. I'm working towards 10,000. I want that 10,000 subscribers. And then what? I don't know. Keep going, man. Don't forget, go to my website, pitbulleconomics.com. Sign up for a 30-day free trial to MMT Trader. I'm the only one who tells you this stuff. All right, bye.